welcome back to the channel. Yeah, I took a pretty long break, but it was for good reason. Changed jobs and had a baby. So yeah, he's just turned 5 months, and things are going well there. So I guess with good reason, that's probably the best reason for me to be away for so long. Just going through those motions, but well, here we are again. Me, you, the sweltering heat of Kentucky. It's got to be about 100 degrees out here, but yeah, the stars align. So out here in western Kentucky at Lincoln's birthplace. So we're gonna try to document the early years of Lincoln, and you guys know the drill. Get on the site, figure out what happened, and put the pieces together as we go. So let's get into this thing. Let's walk around and see what we can uncover. Ew. So this property, I guess you would call it Sinking Spring. It's right outside Hodgkinsville, Kentucky. Lincoln lived here until he was 2. So from the time he was born until 2, he lived here at this property. Over there, the big structure, the monument-looking building, inside of that is housed a replica log cabin. Now, it's not the original log cabin, but they estimated to where the location of that cabin was, and they reconstructed a cabin. It's a pre-Civil War 1840s cabin, and pretty much it was there for the family of 4. So it was Lincoln, his mother, his father, and his sister Sarah, and they all shared that cabin together until Lincoln was 2. And after he was 2, they moved up the road to the Knob Creek area where he lived most of his boyhood, and we'll hit up that place here in a minute. that little watering hole, that was the family's source of drinking water, or just their source of water in general. So Lincoln's dad was Thomas Lincoln, and he was a farmer, and built this homestead right next to this spring. And it's known that he strategically chose this spot because of that water source, that fresh supply of drinking water, that little spring that came out of nowhere. And I mean, as the sign said, Lincoln probably took his first drinks from that water. So, I mean, nostalgic, historic. I mean, if it's true, right? Now that I've sweated and I'm good and ripe, what better time to go indoors and stink up the visitor center? Let's go check it out. Ooh, hot car. Yeah, let's drive a few miles. We'll go over there and check out Lincoln's second boyhood home, the one he moved to after he turned 2 years old with his family. So let's mosey on over. My God, it's definitely 100+ degrees out here. I'm gonna walk in the shade, give you guys a little rundown of the place. So this is Knob Creek. Let's see, the Lincolns moved here from the birthplace, which was Sinking Springs. They moved here in 1809 when Lincoln was 2. And it was here in this property. Not much to look at right now because, well, frankly, we're talking like almost 200 years plus later. So the Lincolns moved here. Thomas Lincoln uprooted the families from Sinking Springs and moved them here in 1809. And it was here that Lincoln has his earliest memories of his formidable years. His earliest childhood memories are of this place.
Nope.
The Lincolns stayed here until 1816, where at the age of 7, they moved across state lines into Indiana. Now, it was also here that Lincoln got his early childhood education, his first formal education. And he did that for a few years before his dad pulled him out of school, as much kids did back in that day. They got pulled out of school to help out around the farm. And with all this acreage, it would make sense. It's also here where Lincoln got his first taste, where he first bared witness to slavery. And these areas were widely worked with slaves. So that might have made an impression on Lincoln, especially like an impression that would later come into play in his later life as president. So this building right here, a little story about it. This is a tavern, and some descendants of Lincoln built these taverns around the 1930s. A little later, you know, than Lincoln's life, they built these taverns, and they built them for the purpose of, I guess you would say, cashing in on the tourism and people trying to come here to, you know, like as we are right now, they're coming here to walk in the footsteps of Lincoln. So on this site, you know, they built that building, and on the other site, Sinking Springs, they built one called the Nancy Hanks Tavern, or the Nancy Hanks Inn. And well, Nancy Hanks, that's the mother's name. That's Lincoln's mother's name, Nancy. And this one's just plainly called the Lincoln Tavern. Oop, gotta watch out for these anthills. So they built 2 of these places, one on each site, basically as a, you know, to generate revenue for the visitors that are visiting here. So back to the story. Thomas Lincoln, Lincoln's dad, he moved the family in 1816. There's multiple reasons why. Maybe both are true, but the 2 that I've got is, well, one, Thomas Lincoln didn't agree with slavery, and I guess, you know, as a father, he didn't want his kids to bear witness to it either. So one of the myths behind them uprooting from this area is that for that reason, that, you know, slavery was just too predominant, and they just didn't agree with those life methods. And also the other reason, and, you know, it bears more truth than the others, is it's known that the residents, all the neighbors from this area, Hardin County, Kentucky, they all had land disputes, like land claim disputes. And Lincoln's father, Thomas, was also involved in this. And so they were all disputing each other on who owned what land and who has rights to what properties. So Lincoln's father, one of the properties that he was disputing was the prior property, and that was the Sinking Spring property. And I guess in the good old boy system, it's all about who you know. And Thomas didn't win that case, so he lost that farm. So I guess, you know, if you really think about it, it's more justified that he would leave the area because of, you know, the neighbors probably just ran him off. So, but yeah, this is the Knob Creek Farm, Lincoln's earliest childhood memory. I mean, there's not much to look at here. The inn, the main structure, it's kind of like serving as a visitor center now. So, but they're closed today. There's not much to look in there. So, unfortunately, we can't go in there and stink that one up either. So, there we are. We covered Lincoln from birth to the age of 7. And, well, I guess there's not much more to say about that. So I guess the only thing left to say is this episode's history.
Bruh.